G'day fellas, how you doing? So, I got this new toy. This is a manual skiving machine apparently. It's cheap knockoff, so yeah, I'll probably shot myself in the foot by not getting the branded one. It's a bit loose in the joints and whatnot, but you know, testing it on a piece of scrap leather here to try and dial it in a bit. It's already pretty much dialed in. I just gotta set it for the underlay. Yeah, it's not a bad little machine. Takes a lot of effort to actually force your material through, which is a bit of a hassle when you're going around corners. But for big, straight sort of skiving, it works pretty well. Yeah, I'm concerned about the blades though. Those blades, it's come with like 10 spare blades, so I'll be right for blades for a little while. But generally, whenever I buy a bladed tool, like the knife on the left there, I get alpha blades for it, and I can't find alpha blades that actually fit this thing. I did actually buy some blades that almost fit it, and I think I might be able to retrofit either the blade or the machine to hold them, but I'll get to that when I come to it. For the moment, we'll just use a blunt. Yeah, I'm still testing a bit of rubbish leather here, and unfortunately a lot of skiving needs to be done. So yeah, there's like 20 minutes of this, and that's not even all the skiving. So I guess we hit the fast forward, don't we? Actually started pieces, so you can see how problematic it is going around corners. I am getting it, but yeah, it's not great. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other almost. This can get a nice even removal of material, but yeah, can't do everything. I end up having to go back and get some of the corners with my knife, and of course I try to push this job and get it finished in one go, and yeah, my fingers don't really appreciate that. As you can see here, I'm just sort of nibbling through it a bit. Very tempted to put some sort of a lubrication on here. Yeah, I didn't. Let's fast forward. So it's just lots of this. Isn't this riveting? Fabulously entertaining. So we go faster, I guess. Yeah. I mean, it's just, yeah, 20 minutes in this one. I haven't reviewed this footage, so yeah, I'm pretty sure once I do the bulk of the cutting, including cutting myself up, yeah, there's a lot of back and forth from the sewing machine. At this point, I haven't cut like all the stuff, the lining, the sponge, the elastic, the mesh. I've just cut the leather, I think. Yeah. Anyway, I'm skiving around the plug here for the vamp, trying to get a nice even sort of round skive around this corner, which I end up doing. This last little connecting bit ends up being a pain in the neck, but I'm just sort of wedging it through a little bit. Alright, what's in the next video? So in the next video, it's more of the same. Again, isn't this riveting? Not too much blood yet. It's all good. My fingers are definitely starting to get sore. They're even looking red. Default. What am I doing? Okay, so this is the first stitch, and it's the piping around the collar, which is kind of the feature, the only feature of the Twilight Zone. And basically what I've got is a strip of pigskin, and I'm doing a closed seam or a bag top. What happened here? So my thinking here was not to skive this, the piece of leather underneath. I didn't skive it, thinking that the extra thickness would give that piping a bit of body, a bit of pipeness to it. In the factory you'll buy piping like on a reel, and it's literally just material folded over a cord of some sort, usually a thick piece of string or something, a cord, and you'll just stitch it on. Doing it manually like this is pretty old school. I've never actually done a pattern that incorporates this, but I've seen it heaps, and the concept is pretty straightforward. I'm just not executing it very well. Yeah, but that's why we do samples, to work out the procedure. And I thought I knew just about everything about the bloomin' Twilight Zone, but even now doing this, I did learn a few things. Like the whole style of the Twilight Zone is actually tailored to be made on a post machine, if that makes sense. And of course, the problem with manufacturing the Twilight Zone is the full foot pump. That's a nightmare. I can only imagine the loathing that the machinists must have had that actually made these shoes. They must have hated them. The amount of work that goes into it, and that pump, you know, one wrong move by the machinist and they put a hole in that pump and the whole upper's busted. That is so, like in a factory, like I couldn't imagine putting that through a factory I was working in. That'd just be, it'd be destroyed. You'd have like 50% rejection rate at quality control. But yeah, we're gluing, good old contact cement. I got these brushes cheap. I got like 200 of them for like $10 off eBay. But I didn't get them for footwear, so they're too small. I got them for paint and other stuff. But you know, they're cheap and disposable basically, so yeah. And again, because I haven't skived it here, this top line, as I mentioned before, hasn't been skived down. It's not folding and it's not behaving properly. It's when it's skived and you do this, the leather has a natural tendency to curl simply because of the lack of material. And to do this right, you want to get your skiving exactly right, so that when you fold it over, the thickness is basically nothing. You create a fold, and that's what I'm trying to do here. I just haven't done it in 20 years, so yeah, I made a big balls up of it. I did everything wrong. Come on, throw that stupid piece of plastic away. You don't need that. So what I'm going to do is, I'm actually, instead of doing this out of pigskin, I'll obviously skive the edge so that I get that curl effect that I was talking about. I think I'll change the end points and just make them a little bit longer so that I can hide them a little bit better. But instead of using pigskin to actually do the rolled top here that I'm now undoing because I'm going, oh, this is not working and it looks like a dog's breakfast, more glue is not going to help you, my friend. yeah, what I'll use instead is that mesh material that I use later on the tongue. I don't use very much of that mesh material. It's cheap and nasty, but it looks cool. Yeah, so I struggle with this for a little while. Maybe we should speed it up, make me look a bit more competent. Look at me go. So we sort of roll it over. How do these controls work? Get your damn subject in frame, dude. I can't see a thing. But yeah, I fiddle around with it for what seems like an eternity. Look at it and go, that's rubbish, and pull it apart. Was close, but yeah. The neatness of your stitch here makes a big difference too. If you think about it, once you start actually pulling it, the only thing that's gonna really make it hold its shape is the neatness of your stitch. So when you stitch these, if you're going a bit off, the strategy needs to be to keep the stitch basically neat and straight, instead of trying to deviate back onto track really quickly. Deviate back onto track slowly, and hopefully you'll hide that deviation. So this kind of looks a little bit better, but because I'm doing it up the wrong way, yeah, it's not really working. The back piece is just a strip, otherwise I could do it this way up and you'd have sort of more to, you could see what you're doing. Doing it blind, you've got to rely on the stitch and basically the skiving to get this right. But if I use mesh, the mesh has got a three-dimensionality to it. It's one of those 3D weave materials, so it'll have a certain amount of puff anyway. And having a second look at what the actual Reeboks look like, both on the vintage pair that I have and the bringbacks, yeah, it doesn't need to be as pronounced as it is in this one that I'm actually making. So I'll change that. Come on, stick the next bit on. So it's not bad, but it's not great. Oh yeah, gotta pound it. Give it a pounding, give it a rubbing. So when I first started doing this back in the factory, you know, my naive brain wanted to hammer things like this real hard. Oh, if I hit it real hard, it'll you know, it'll work better. Nah, you don't really want to hit it hard. You just want to give it a pounding. Not, you know, you don't want to pound it into gravel. You want to just sort of lay that leather down. And often a rub with a hammer is better than a hammer with a hammer. So yeah, so here I'm using that mesh for the collar part, and yeah, I think this collar is going to have the same problem when I actually do the bag top on it. This mesh is not going to have enough substance. I'm either going to have to put something behind it so that it actually holds the top line, or make it out, use a different material. I'm tempted to I've got some kangaroo, except kangaroo's really, the problem with kangaroo is it's really sort of squishy, chewing gummy leather. It stretches like way over a centimeter over a full shoe, and that makes it difficult. This leather is basically a standard sort of leather. It's got a bit of stretch to it, but not a massive amount. And so this is the back piece. There's a piece of EVA foam. I think it's EVA foam. It's basically a 5mm yoga mat that I got at Kmart. So yeah, yoga mats are a good supply of cheap, dense foam, this foamy stuff on the back that'll the theory is that you give this a bit of puff. This didn't work very well either, and I've done a terrible stitch, and come really short. Again, I can't see what I'm doing through this blooming foot. Yeah, I'm a twit. But anyway, I take to it with a grinder later. Open it up a bit. And stitch and stitch and stitching. And again, what I should have done with this piece is I should have put a piece of backing on it so that and glue it down so that the EVA actually forms a puff. It's a bit hard to explain, but in the Twilight Zone, obviously that piece has a predominant puff to it, and it's because there's some sponge or some doohickeys going on in the back here. And here's where I've made another huge mistake in not checking my alignment, and I've aligned this, or was it the next one? I think I aligned the top line a bit skew there. It's off by about 1 millimeter. Again, this is why we test. This is why we make prototypes. It's really interesting watching me work. I suck. Stitching, stitching, stitching. Do a lot of stitching. Faster, faster. Of course, masking tape's not the best solution for marking this stuff, but yeah, it's what I got at hand. Always a challenge doing a double stitch on this thing, and it's immediately telling me that the material's way too thick here. So yeah, gonna have to totally rethink that. I've got to re-stitch it because yeah, pain in the neck. Yeah, just stitching away, lots of stitching. Don't look at that, that's just a shortcut. Always a good habit to trim your loose threads, especially with the pump. I had a pair of pumps, pre-season pumps, way back in the 90s, and yeah, I remember putting them on one day and finding a loose thread and pulling the loose thread, and it literally sliced the pump chamber in half. I was so annoyed at myself. So yeah, get rid of your threads. Not only do they look messy, it's, yeah, if you make them pumps, they could destroy the whole thing. So I'm just double checking which piece goes where, because it's a bit of a thing. I actually put a procedure of operations on the pattern itself, but I didn't transfer that procedure onto the pieces. Here we've made another mistake. So you can see we've got this big tan piece of leather. This is tooling leather. Basically the cool thing about this tooling leather is you hit it with water and it goes all soft, and you can then mold it around like a heel counter or a toe puff or something like that. And you know, in theory you can mold this to the shape of your foot, or you could mold this, what I was intending to do, I was going to mold it to the shape of the unit, but it causes huge problems in finishing, as we'll see towards the end of this. Yeah, so I had to ditch it. But I did learn my lesson from the, I guess I'm calling it the toe, my shoe that I made that I still haven't finished, to put a hand stitched zigzag close seam in the back line there. Takes a bit of time, but you can get that. It's basically what we would have done in the factory if I had the option. I'd just stick it on a zigzag machine and zigzag it. Yeah, we just keep going around, and here I can actually see exactly where things go wrong. Because this piece stitches through the tooling leather, it's creating a discrepancy. It's bunching up a heap of material. If I had done just the upper, this would have worked a lot better. But I don't actually notice until much later. Things seem to be going just fine at this point. It's a little sloppy, but it's still good. Stitch and stitch and stitch. Forever stitching. And now the machine's stuffing up. Do I notice? Yes, I do. Always trim your threads. See, when I was making it, I'm looking at it here and I'm going, yeah, it's sort of looking alright, it's working, yeah, that's fine. So I keep going. It's been really interesting trying to make shoes at home. I've had to rethink how I make shoes altogether. In the factory, I took for granted all the machines and materials that were all sort of set up to do just shoe stuff. Now I buy stuff, I've got to be careful that it's not some cheap rubbish or something that's just not going to be appropriate. Some of the first things I made on this channel I made out of leather that I cut off couches off the street. And although that worked, that material, ugh, my goodness, terrible leather. But anyway, this is some good leather, and it behaves a lot different to the couch leather I was making. So it's good that I've switched over. I'll get some far better feedback on the things that I do make. But yeah, gluing down the first piece of TPU. Looks terrible on camera. Honestly, it doesn't look much better in real life. I've literally worn out my printer printing all this stuff. I honestly didn't realise until I started having other problems. I was getting thermal runaways, so I had to have a bit of a look to see. It turned out if I yeah, we don't want that one, do we? I guess we'll pause here, fellas.